China has built enough homes for 3 billion people at least. And that is also according to one of China's top economic officials. And here is the part that should stop you cold. As many as 90 million homes are sitting totally empty right now, with nobody ever living in them. That's enough for housing the entire population in Brazil or in Germany. Entire cities built with modern roads, malls, and skyscrapers have turned into a complete ghost towns. And China, the world's largest economy by purchasing power, it is not that stupid to waste money like that. So, here is the hardest question. Why would the smartest economic planners on earth build homes for ghosts? Is this just the most expensive publicity stunt in history? So today on Factopx, we are breaking down why China was so desperate to build cities where literally nobody lives. And watch till the end, because this covers what most news coverage has always missed, and it's stranger than you will expect. Let's start with a city in Inner Mongolia called Kangbashi in the district of Ordos. Construction began in the early 2000s during a coal boom. An advanced city built for the future. Wide boulevards, a grand museum shaped like a golden cloud, a library built to look like books leaning on a shelf, stadiums, parks, apartment towers stretching to the horizon, and the target population was 300,000 residents. The reality hit much harder because only a few thousand people ever moved in. The deluxe apartments sat waiting for residents who never came, and the city earned its nickname honestly, a home for ghosts. Journalists called it the ghost city, and it was not alone. Near Hangzhou, China built Tianducheng, a full copy of Paris with its own Eiffel Tower, 100 meters tall. And it was planned for 10,000 residents. For years, it sat mostly empty. Outside Shanghai, there's Thames Town, a copy of London with red phone boxes and a mock English pub. Beautiful, quiet, and absolute empty. Nobody lived there either, and the stories don't stop there. In Tianjin, they built Yuxiapu, a full skyline designed to be China's Manhattan. Office towers, wide streets, its own subway station. But here is the bad part. No businesses ever came. A foolproof housing plan, perfectly built, and literally nobody showed up to make it work. The thing to understand here, China is not a poor country making dumb bets. It planned its way from farmland to the world's factory in just 40 years. So the question hits hard here. Why did the same government that pulled 800 million people out of poverty keep building cities that nobody ever moved into? And the answer is not stupidity. The answer is everyone in the system was getting paid as long as nobody asked who would live there. Before we dig into the questions swirling around China's ghost cities, let me ask you this. What does a home mean to you? A safe place to live without paying for rent every single month, right? But for Chinese people, it's not just a place to live. By 2020, around 70% of Chinese household wealth was tied up in property. Not stocks, not pensions, property. In America, families spread their savings across many things. While in China, the apartment was the savings account. It was the retirement plan, and for millions of young men, it was something else too, a ticket to marriage. In much of China, a man is not seen as ready to marry until he owns a home. So families didn't just buy one apartment, they bought two or maybe three. Around 20% of urban households in China own a second home. Roughly 90% of households own property, one of the highest rates on earth. And why not? For 30 years, prices only went one way, up and up. And everyone believed the sky was the only limit. This wasn't just an investment, it was a national religion. Buy concrete and get rich. And it worked perfectly until the moment it stopped working. And here is the second question. The buyers explained the demand, but who kept supplying the city one after another empty city? And the answer is local governments. Here is the machine in simple terms. Local governments in China cannot easily raise taxes, but they own the land. Before the crisis hit, selling land to developers made up around 40% of local government revenue, a massive 40% from housing alone. Building also pumped up local GDP numbers, and in China, officials got promoted based on GDP growth. So everyone stayed relaxed. Higher housing sales meant higher revenue, which meant higher incentives to build more. A mayor who approves a giant new district gets revenue today and a promotion tomorrow. Whether people move in tomorrow or 5 years from now isn't his problem. That's the next mayor's problem. And for years, something strange kept happening across China. The government sold land, developers borrowed billions to build on it, and families emptied their savings to buy apartments before they were even finished. Everyone got paid. The only thing the entire Chinese property market needed to survive was one simple condition. Prices could never ever fall. That could not hold forever. And in 2021, prices fell. And almost nobody saw it coming. The houses kept stacking up, covering more and more land with barely a single person living in them. By 2020, Beijing finally got nervous about developer debt and drew three red lines: strict borrowing limits. For companies that had been rolling old debt into new debt for decades, it was like cutting the oxygen. The first giant to fall was Evergrande, once the most valuable real estate company on the planet. In 2021, it defaulted on more than $300 billion in liabilities alone. Let that number sit, $300 billion. Hundreds of thousands of families had already paid for apartments that didn't exist yet, and construction stopped cold. Then came something China almost never sees: open revolt. In 2022, mortgage boycotts spread across the country. People refused to keep paying loans on homes that were never delivered. Evergrande's fall triggered more than 50 Chinese developers to default. Country Garden, once China's biggest home builder, defaulted on $11 billion in offshore debt. A Hong Kong court ordered Evergrande liquidated. And its own liquidators later admitted the offshore debt claims alone hit $45 billion, far more than the company ever disclosed. This is not a housing dip. This is the slow motion collapse of the biggest asset bubble in human history. And it didn't stop there. As of early 2026, official data showed new home prices falling for 20 months in a row. Analysts expect them to keep falling this year. Goldman Sachs estimates the property crash cut around 2 full percentage points of China's growth in both 2024 and 2025. Some estimates put lost household wealth in the trillions of dollars, savings that ordinary families thought were as safe as concrete, and they were not safe anymore. Now, here is the question for you. After everything you just heard, do you think the ghost cities are still the ghost cities till today? Let's be fair, because we believe in facts, not just fear. And next comes up the twist that most videos skip about these ghost cities. Some ghost cities are filled up. Pudong in Shanghai was mocked as an empty vanity project in the 1990s. Today, it is one of the most important financial districts on earth. Zhengdong, new area, was called a ghost city on American TV in 2013. Within just few years, it had over 1 million residents and 150 financial institutions. Even Kangbashi, the most famous ghost city of all, grew to over 150,000 people after the government moved top schools into the district. Because in China, parents will move anywhere for a better school. So the defenders have a real point. China builds ahead of demand, and sometimes demand shows up. Here is the debate, and I want you to pick a side in the comments. Side 1. China's ghost cities are visionary. Build the city first and people will come like Pudong. While the side 2, they are the biggest waste of resources in human history, and the bill has finally arrived. Which side are you on, visionary or catastrophe? Comment your answer below and tell me which country you are watching from, because the answer changes a lot depending on where you live. Now, finally the answer I had promised you at the start. Why was China so desperate to build the cities where nobody lives? And the answer is because build-ahead urbanization has one requirement. More people must keep coming. For 40 years, they did. Hundreds of millions of people moved from farmland to cities. And now that era is ending. China's population is now shrinking and aging fast. The young buyers those empty towers were waiting for, many of them were simply never born. China built enough empty apartments to house 3 billion people. But the truth about China's ghost cities is stranger than you'd ever think. They were never really built for people. They were built for GDP targets, for land sale revenue, for promotions, and for families with nowhere else to put their savings. The empty apartments weren't a bug in China's economic model. For 20 years, they were the model. And you cannot fix a problem when the problem is the business plan. That is how you build a $1 trillion ghost story. Beijing is now spending billions buying unsold homes to convert into affordable housing. And it has pushed over 7 trillion yuan in loans to finish stalled projects. But experts estimate true fixing of this crisis could cost between 500 billion and $1 trillion. The rescue plan is a bucket. The housing crisis is an ocean. Now let me tell you this. China didn't build empty cities without people. It built an economy where empty homes were counted as wealth until the day they were counted as nothing. If this changed how you see China's economic miracle, subscribe to the channel. Your support is what pushes us to keep digging up stories like this, the ones buried under all the noises. Like, share and comment below if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one.